Welcome to the Elevating IT podcast. It's the end of the week, which means we're hosting the weekly sales wrap on Friday. We're almost to the 4th of July here in the United States, so welcome. And my guest today, we have an MSP interview to talk about how they sell. Mr. Marc Umstead from Plus One Technology. Thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, my pleasure. You know, I've met you. We've talked numerous times now. You've been a guest on some broadcasts before, so this is like Saturday Night Live. Like you host the show, and there's a certain like a celebrity that comes with being a guest or being the host multiple times. So you're like in that Tom Hanks category.
Yeah. I'll take that.
Right on. So let's just kick things off, man. Where are you from? Where is Plus One Technology located?
So we operate. We're 45 minutes west of Philadelphia. So we kind of handle. We really do our core customer bases. The Philadelphia area, New Jersey, and the northern side of Maryland.
Oh, cool. And how long has your MSP been around?
I've had the MSP since 2005, so 16 or so years.
Cool. And what on earth got you into this stuff? Like, are you how did you get started in this?
So, everybody's story as to how they got in technology is always pretty funny. My dad worked for an insurance firm, and I was, in my teens, and I would go help them out in the summer. And one of the things I had to do was log all the loans they had on the books. When they would make new finance agreements and stuff like that, I would write them down on pieces of paper. And after doing that for a while, and people asking you, oh, well, what happened with this? And you're leafing through, thousands of pieces of paper to try to find something. I just said, there's got to be an easier way to do this. So I started, I bought back then it was the how to use Microsoft Access Bible. And it was, 20,000 pages or whatever of how to learn Microsoft Access. And I just kind of started, learning how to do some basic stuff and ended up, writing kind of a database program that kind of ran their whole business. And then it just kind of went from there. I went to college then for, MIS stuff. And then I got out of college and I was doing some sales stuff, and I just, kind of stumbled on an opportunity to kind of try this out. And, I opened up my shop with way too little money and way too little experience. And, but I, tried it out, and I guess so far it's worked.
That's awesome. And are you you're a technology person by trade, right? Like your training, would you consider yourself more of a technology person or more sales oriented?
I would say that I am getting to be less of a technology person. I think as you kind of, are in this business, as you grow and your kind of responsibilities in the company kind of change from being, the technical or the technician to being more of the, the business operations and kind of, being the driver behind the business. You become less technical just because our industry changes every day, and you're not in the, you're kind of not in the war. We're not, I'm not handling the incoming support calls or dealing with the new software updates. So, I would say that I'm, kind of shifting more from being, probably the most technical person here to being the least technical person here.
And that's a good thing. I think, you're running your business, and,
right.
And that's what I was curious about, this, how big your business is. Like, so how many employees do you have?
So we have 6 full-time guys.
Gotcha. So you really shifted. You made that shift to go from kind of doing the support, doing the technology stuff to running your business, and you're probably out there doing the sales, or do you have a sales?
Right. Yeah. Right now, I primarily have some support in basically the most of the kind of pre-sales system is to, we have, I have an appointment setter. I have, some people helping me with actually completing some of the marketing tasks, but I kind of work on designing the campaigns and then having the calls or the physical meetings with the customers to kind of, close the deal.
Cool. And do you do QBRs, and then are you the person who does QBRs?
Usually, there's, about 3 of us total that'll do the QBRs, depending on kind of who the point on that account is. So yeah, I mean, I do probably the majority of the QBRs, but there are other people that do the QBRs too, depending on, just because of the size, our customer base now. We handle, around, as managed services clients, we have like about 150. So, the QBRs can be a lot, especially, at the beginning of the year and then after tax season, because we handle a lot of accountants. So, it can just be a lot where, somebody else may have to pick it up just from scheduling.
Right. Are you doing it with all clients, or do you do like, okay, certain size clients? Like obviously if somebody's break fix, you're not going to do a QBR,
right.
But do you have certain tiers where,
yeah, so we try to have a meeting with every client, regardless of size, at least once a year. So no matter who you are, we try to, have a phone call or at least, an email exchange that just says, hey, is there anything we need to talk about at least once a year? And then we kind of tier it based on size and customer need. I mean, we have some customers that are, small in employee count or revenue, but they just, they want to be, in communication with us, and that's fine. I mean, we'll just do it more often if that's what they want to do.
Cool. And so how's business? Like we are in July of 2021 as we're recording this, and obviously this has been an interesting year. How was business for you through COVID? How is business now? What's your forecast? What are you looking at?
So, I mean, 2020 was, we had a kind of a growth year in 2020. We hired 2 more people in 2020. And obviously the beginning of COVID, like I'm sure every other MSP out there, was crazy, trying to help people that were not ready for any kind of, work from home. It was, kind of a great experience for those. We've been kind of preaching this, hybrid work, cloud approach for, at least 5 or 6 years. So we did have a number of clients that were, didn't see any kind of change in their business. I mean, they thought, actually we're like, wow, you said, we could all work from home, and we all went home and we could. So, that was a really positive experience for a lot of people. And we had some companies, because of that, get rid of their office. We have some clients that, transition completely away from physical location. We also had, the clients that didn't do any of those things or have any of those technologies in place. And then it was like, the holy crap, what are we going to do? So it was a little crazy the first couple of months. We don't have a lot in retail or hospitality. I mean, we do have some, and obviously it was tough for them, but we didn't lose anybody. We didn't have, anybody go out of business because of the pandemic. So we were a little insulated from that just because of our niche clientele. And really we saw, because we do handle a lot of accountants, their business got better, because of all the, different tax change. I mean, everybody needed somebody to do their taxes. I mean, it was impossible, if you made any kind of money in 2020 or had any of these programs that you took advantage of, like you needed to have somebody, professional do your taxes. So they all had a great year. I mean, it was a challenging year because of, tax code changes and all this other stuff, but they all had a great year. So in turn, we had a really great 2020. I think we ended up, with around 18% revenue growth in 2020. So, and we're hoping to hit, another, to at least match that in 2021. So, that's our goal. We'll see. We're on pace for it right now. So, you always have to, you never know where things are going to go, but we're definitely seeing an acceleration of, new people coming on, and existing clients that were kind of, maybe afraid to make some, larger investments are now kind of, coming back and saying, oh yeah, we got to do that. So, it's definitely going to be a good 2021.
Congrats. That's great. It's great to hear. I know some people are out there struggling, and there's a lot of MSPs are doing great. Like I hear that more than I hear the bad, right? Like
Right.
I hear that people had a great 2020. Their clients had good 2020 and they're looking at a great 2021. So nice to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's definitely good. I mean, I think Kevin O'Leary was speaking at an event, a couple months ago, and he basically said to all the MSPs, if you can't double your business by the end of the year, you're doing something wrong. So I don't think we'll double our business, but hopefully, if we can hit that 20% mark, I'd be happy with that.
Awesome. Well, I hope you do double your business. Let's talk about, selling and that kind of thing. Lean into this because I'd like to explore, how you're selling, how you're bringing on clients, what you're doing. And let's start with prospecting, that nothing happens until you obviously have an appointment scheduled.
Sure.
So what are you doing or like tell us about how you're getting your clients now.
Sure. So, one of the things that we do every year, because, we have a pretty good niche in, the accounting and CPA firms, is right after tax season's over, which is typically, the end of April, beginning of May. This year, it was the end of May, beginning of June.
Yeah.
That's when we really kind of hit harder prospecting. And because of our, because of the, our customer value, our acquisition costs can be a little higher. So we do spend some money on those campaigns. So like this year, what we did is we got a bunch of logoed beach towels and some logoed sunscreen and just kind of sent out, some boxes to, hundreds of accountants and just said, hey, tax season's over. It's time to take a break. During that break, if you didn't have a great tax season technology wise, let's just schedule a call and see if we can, if there's anything we can do to help you. So that program works great. And one of the things that we do that kind of makes it work is we send a simple follow-up email, usually a day or two after they get it, to the person we address the box to. And it just, all the email says is, hey, did you get, I sent you a box. Did you get it? Nothing else, not schedule me, nothing. Just, did you get the box? And you almost always will get, the person's going to answer because we're kind of built to answer, simple questions. Right. And they'll, you'll get a response. Hey, yeah, I got it. Or no, I didn't get it. Or, one guy I went back and forth with 4 or 5 times as to why he didn't, maybe why he didn't get the box, so.
So you did a little tech support on.
Yeah.
On
I mean, so it was just like, he was like, oh, well, we're a virtual office. And then the thing went to our virtual office and I don't know who gets the mail, so, but it starts the conversation, right? I mean, that's all we're trying to do in marketing is just kind of, let's start a conversation with somebody. So, and usually, just saying, hey, did you get it? They respond with either yes or no. And then you can be like, hey, I'd, like to, see if you got 5 minutes or, and a lot of times they'll tell you, if they get the box because, it's pretty clear in the marketing that we send what we're trying to do. So they may say, yeah, I got it. I have a guy, that I'm really happy with or whatever. But we do get, a fair number of them that say, hey, yeah, I got it. And, I'd like to talk to you, so it works. And it's, it is expensive. You obviously can't do that for everybody. And the marketing in there is explicitly geared to their industry. So it's real specific to them. So the marketing talks to them so they understand that we know, how their business works. And I think just the timing of the package kind of indicates that too. So that's one of the things we do for, the accountants that works, very well, is kind of, I think in any kind of targeted marketing, if people understand that their business, you're going to be more successful.
So you're marketing, so you're sending them a package, obviously, and it's got materials in there, probably some good materials. You're leading them to a website.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, we have some reports in there and stuff like that, that kind of, are targeted towards their business.
Gotcha. And what were your results from that one campaign? Like,
so we sent out, I think it was 155 that we sent out, and we had a conversation, either via email or phone call with at least 80 of those people out of the 150. So, Now, some of those obviously were, hey, I got, I have somebody, I'm not interested. But, for me, I always like to say in marketing, but I want the information, right? So we obviously everybody spends a lot of time and money marketing to somebody. So if you kind of know that it's a no, it's sometimes great just to get that answer. So you're not wasting any money or resource on those people. And there's, in our business, there's plenty of customers, so we don't need to be hard selling people. I'm not one of those guys that's like, let's make a list of every objection and come up with a way around it and all that kind of stuff, because there's just so many fish in the pond that if somebody says I'm not interested, then I'll find the next guy. I'm not trying to, drive a wedge. Now, do we continue to kind of drip marketing those people at a much lower cost? Sure. Because, a not interested today is not a not interested ever,
Right.
So we'll continue to do, maybe a biannual, postcard mailer that they might get, with just, a basic, some basic technology stuff, or we'll keep them on our mailing list for, if we do cybersecurity webinars, so we'll keep them on that list if they want to. And we do get people that'll come back because, just like your car mechanic, it just takes one bad experience. Even if you were using that guy for 10 years, the day you get your car back and your tire falls off, you're going to start, it's going to have the wedge, you're going to start being like, this guy used to be my favorite. Now he's okay. It's kind of like the pizza place, they're your favorite pizza place until they screw up your order once. And then you're kind of unhappy. If they screw up your order twice, you're going to call somebody else, so it's, you don't want to write somebody off completely. Now we do get some that we do write off, it's like, hey, my brother's my IT guy. So you're probably not going to get that guy, so, I mean, in those instances, we kind of mark them, hey, probably not going to happen,
Right.
But yeah, for the most part, yeah, I mean, we don't spend too much time on trying to, argue with people if they're happy where they're at.
Right. And I love that. So you're like on a regular basis. So the course of a year, like let's just, I know you're doing a lot of different things, but you kick that one campaign off to accountants at that certain time. That's a little more of an expensive, maybe, higher level touch, but you're getting you're getting their attention. They're all opening it. Yeah. Then you're sending them an email, and that's probably a high response rate.
Yeah.
So now they're going to probably be more prone to answer your emails down the road.
Right.
How often are you touching them, whether it's email or, postcard or whatever? Like, are you hitting them multiple times a month or?
Yeah, because of our, they're our kind of core customers, I mean, I always look at marketing, we do some stuff that kind of casts a broad net, like our postcard mailing list is in the thousands, of people that are going to get a postcard from us. And then our kind of our monthly newsletter is probably 500 to 600 companies that get our monthly newsletter, because it's a little more cost than your postcard. And then those kind of core customers, our accountants. We like to target accountants, attorneys, and healthcare. Specifically dentists and orthodontists. We have a pretty good niche in. So anybody that falls on our core client list, they're getting something from us. They're getting the postcard, they're getting the newsletter. But then they're also getting, all the invites. We do quarterly cybersecurity webinars. So they're getting all those. They're getting anything that, like, if we get, because we try to stay on all the industry mailing lists. So if we see something that's coming out particular into their industry that affects them, that has to do with technology, if it's something that has to do with compliance, we'll send out, an email or something about that. We try to combine both email and mailing because, obviously people have to opt in to get your emails, and you don't want to bother people too much on email, because then you become kind of ignored, whether technically you become ignored. So you go into their spam or their, non-focused inbox, or, they just unsubscribe, or they, it's just too much. So, right. We try to also send, stuff via the actual mail, because, we actually see pretty good response now with regular U.S. mail.
Cool. I love it. So you're staying consistent with it, and you're bringing in clients, and then obviously, or you're bringing in appointments. So you're feeding that pipeline. Sounds like it's a full pipeline. What happens next? How do you let's talk about your sales process. To appointment, technical assessment, into a sales presentation, or
for the most part, I know kind of the assessments are kind of like the new thing that everybody's trying to push now. But I always kind of try to do it a little more personally than that, because I really think people's decision to buy from somebody is usually a personal decision more than it is the results of some assessments that they can be helpful, I think. But I think, instead of doing some broad, extensive assessment, just kind of, doing something simple, and maybe, asking them 10 to 15 questions as to, if they have this in place, if they have that in place, and then being able to show them, with a tool, and
you're welcome to mention whatever tools you use. Whether
So we obviously are an Audit user to for the presentation.
Sure. And you're welcome to mention any vendor's tools.
I mean, we don't really. There's nothing that we explicitly use for the assessments. Just, a couple off. Kind of mainly most of the assessment tools we kind of built ourselves, because we don't do too much of a. I don't like installing stuff on people's computers or networks before, we have any kind of agreement in place. It's just not something, I'm comfortable doing. So we kind of manually do most of the technical assessment. So after we kind of do a brief assessment of, kind of what they have, what they need, and then we'll just sit down and have a conversation with them. And sometimes that assessment is over the phone, without even seeing anything. Because sometimes I feel if they're giving you the information, like, hey, do you have this, or do you have it? It helps them. They're realizing as they're telling you what they don't have, that they don't have it, So,
right.
It's not us just telling them, hey, we're going through our list of all the things, especially anybody that has any kind of compliance requirements, when they know in their head they're supposed to have it, I mean, especially, when we do healthcare or even, we deal with some clients with the new CMMC compliance. Like they are aware that they're supposed to have some of this stuff and that they don't have it. So I think them, kind of being a part of the simple assessment process can help, can help the sale, honestly, because they're real, you're kind of reinforcing that they know they're supposed to have it, and they're telling you they don't have it. And then you're showing them that again when you do, kind of your initial proposal or presentation.
Love it. Can you talk about, what are your conversion rates? Like, do you track your close rate and
so I try to track it. We track two, because I think it's important to separate referral business from, kind of homegrown marketing business, because your conversion rate on referral business should be, over 85%. I mean, it should be through the roof for a referral business. So I try to take that out, because I think, you shouldn't get the benefits of that when you're looking at, just somebody off the street that has no idea who you are.
I love that you do that. It's very smart.
I mean, I think you got to get it off of there. So our overall conversion rate, if we have we kind of track it if we have a call or a presentation, just not on cold leads. So we close usually around 65% of the people that we meet with. And it can actually be a little higher in the industry. If you're an accountant or something, just because of the laundry list of referrals we can provide, it makes it easier. Now that's also, I also kind of, I'll caveat that number a little bit is we remove people that we consider not qualified. So if we meet with them and we kind of, know in the meeting that, they're not a fit for us, one way or another, then we kind of remove them and we'll often just tell them, just, this isn't a fit, so I don't want to, because I think it's a good, your personalities have to match too,
Right.
So, when you're just starting out, you probably, you kind of shotgun approach and you're going to take anybody and everybody who wants to be your customer. But as you grow, I think you kind of realize that, taking on a customer that's not a good fit for whatever reason usually just doesn't end well. So don't even buy, going after the incremental revenue just for the incremental revenue can often be a mistake. So, we try not to if it's not a good fit, we won't even really kind of go down that path.
Agree with you 100%. And we were talking about this before the show. I'd love for you to share this. You were mentioning that you were writing you had some notes on 3 questions every prospect looks to answer during your initial call. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So I was talking to a guy who's just starting out in the space, right? So he's kind of a brand new MSP, just opened up. He's trying to, kind of figure out all the processes and everything. And he was kind of going through some stuff, and he was like, "Well, hey, do you do this in the the initial meeting?" And I said, "Really, you need to be able to answer 3 questions in the meeting that that the prospect is looking for you." And the first one is, does this person understand my business? So they, the prospect wants to understand that you understand how their business works, how they make money, how, what the basic workflow of the business in their industry is. The second one is, do I trust this person, right? Can I trust this person, especially in our field where, a guy told me years ago, he's like, picking an IT guy is like getting married because, all the, we have access to, all their data, all their stuff, and they completely rely on us for, when things go south. So, you really have to instill that you're trustworthy and that you're going to do what you say you're doing, because, they don't have a way to double check you, really. So, that's number 2. And the third one is can they afford do they see value in the services that you're going to provide at the price you want to provide them at? So, if you're going to charge X, do they, can they afford it? And 2, do they see the value in that money that they're going to spend in what they're going to get back? So I always think that they're the 3 most important things. So anytime I try to sit down with a customer, I always think of those 3 because that's really what they're after, So you don't want to get bogged down in the specific details of what you're going to do. Obviously that's important when you go to, provide a quote and everything. You're going to have to review everything. But when you're initially just trying to sell, hey, deal with me, right? I think those are the 3 things that you got to make sure that you hit on in order to, because initially you're the one sitting in front of them. So you're just selling you. Obviously there's a team of people behind you and there's a company and there's ideals of the company and all that. But like, if they don't personally like you, I mean, first of all, they don't like you, you're probably done, regardless of how good your stuff is or whatever. Like if they personally get, kind of a bad vibe from you, it's probably not going to happen. So, I think those 3 things are really where we try to focus in the initial, are you going to hire me meeting? Right. And that's why I also think it's important to try to break it up. Don't come into the initial meeting with pages and, if the company needs a lot of work, like trying to sell them on hardware upgrades, doing a voice over IP system, if you go in there with like $100,000 worth of quotes and try to walk out with a signature on all that, like the day they meet you, like, good luck, if you can sell that, whatever, come call me, but, so I think, initially we try to get them, just comfortable with dealing with us. What do we offer? How much is it going to be, for, just for the basic kind of support? And then, and then we'll have usually another meeting to kind of go through the details once we kind of understand, what's in their environment, what has to happen, how behind are they in technology, what are their goals, and those types of things. But I just try to focus on not doing, trying to shotgun them all at once with a whole bunch of stuff.
Gotcha. And what does that look like? Like, how do you talk a little bit about what your presentations look like and what you drive them through, and how you run those meetings?
Sure.
I love the
So
way that you're not selling them like a private island on the first.
yeah, I mean, so we usually it'll kind of, the tone of the meeting will kind of depend on how they came to us, right? So if they're a cold lead and we reached out to them and they agreed to a meeting, then what I usually do is the audit tool has I forget what it's called. It's like the thing where you take the notes, whatever it's called, the
Fact finder.
Yeah, the fact finder report. Sorry, yes, the fact finder report, which is essentially like all the different, they're called products, but products or services that we believe they should have in place. And then we just kind of, I try to go through them, but in a conversational piece. It's not, I'm not trying to sit there like, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have that? But I try to get to them all as we're, kind of talking. And then I usually ask them if I can do a tour, which kind of sounds stupid, but I always say, hey, can I, just have give me a tour of your building. And a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, well, let me do, so we'll walk around and when you do the tour, it's not just a tour to make them happy, but it's a tour because as you start to look around, you can start to get a feel as to, what the deal's going to be. If you see the cobwebs on the floor and the wiring and all the computers look like they're 15 years old, it's easier than sitting in the room with them and asking them how old the equipment is, because number one, it's going to be wrong, because almost everybody that we meet with is like, oh yeah, these computers are 5 years old, and then we run the serial numbers and they're, they're 23 years old, so
an Atari from.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we try to, I think if you ask for a tour of the facility, you can learn a lot just by kind of looking around. You can kind of gain some information that'll help you in the presentation. And it also, might help you determine, whether it's going to be, a good fit or not. I mean, if you walk around and everything looks like it's 20 years old and the first thing out of the guy's mouth is, how are you going to save me money? Maybe you just want to leave, because, most of us, that's not what we're in we're not looking to limp around old equipment forever. Because it's just a risk to us. And, when it breaks, they're going to be yelling at us and that doesn't help anybody. So I think that's, one way that you can really gain some information, without really doing too much.
Love it. And then when you structure your presentation, I know you're not obviously an audit user. You've been using it for a while, and that's what you're presenting with. Do you have a certain, audit's a simple tool as far as you're basically reporting on the facts. Like, how do you talk about how you put yours together and what your presentation is like?
Sure. So we perform the baseline audit. So they're going to see, the report that says, and that's usually what we show them. And that's what we use kind of as our conversation piece without talking about pricing. We don't put any kind of pricing in the audit thing. So I don't use, there is a financial details thing that you can use in audit. I don't really use it because I've found that when you put the number in there, that's what they think about for the whole thing. As soon as they see the number, especially if it says, hey, you're spending $500 and I want you to spend $1,000, like you get tuned out for the rest of the day, because all they're thinking about is that $500 delta. So I try to just walk through the actual presentation, hey, this is what you have, this is what you don't have. And really what I try to explain it as is not the technical, like, oh, well, I want you to have a BDR device because this way, your server's going to get backed up every hour. And, all this, we always try to explain it in business terms, right? So if you have this, your downtime gets cut, from 3 days to 2 hours. So if something happens, you're only going to be down for a couple hours instead of a couple days. All the other crap for the benefits of BDR, nobody cares about. So we always try to explain it in a term, in business terms, what that benefit means to their business, right? Whether it's reduced downtime, whether it's, keeping you from getting, hey, if you get a ransomware infection, you're going to be down for whatever, 20 days, you're going to lose all this, explain it like that. And don't talk about, the technical backgrounds of kind of the benefits that we may get as an MSP. Or even some of the technical reasons.
And you're really working to keep the tech talk, or you're simplifying it, and you're really keeping that at a business level and explaining to them what it means to them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what are you doing? Because a lot of what we do now is just risk mitigation, right? So we're just trying to lower your risk of some bad effect. And what we're really trying to do is lower your risk of the things that have a higher probability of happening with a high impact on your business, right? So those things right now may be, ransomware infections, or they can be, a lot of times they're simple things like power outages, right? I mean, right now, that's probably the biggest thing that we see all the time is a power outage, so power outage or as an internet outage can be extremely detrimental. If you're a wholesaler or something and you don't have power or internet for the day, you just lost the day's worth of sales, which could be, $100,000, depending on the size of your business, it could be extremely detrimental to your business. So, what are simple things that we can, and those things are easy to mitigate, right? So you get a secondary internet connection. You can get battery backup units. If it's power's that critical to your business, you get a whole building generator, which, the upfront expense can be large for some of that stuff. For some of it's small, getting a secondary internet connection for, a wholesaler that does, $50,000 a day in sales or $100,000, a couple, $150 a month, is nothing compared to losing a day's worth of sales. And if you go to them and say, give me $150 a month without them understanding why you're asking, it's a lot harder, Right. So we try to lead with the question first, we kind of walk through a risk analysis with the clients to, what are your biggest, what are these items that are the biggest, highest probability with the biggest impact on your business, and what can we do to mitigate them? So if you talk about the risk and the effects of the risk before you talk about the cost to mitigate it, it makes the cost seem less.
Right. And, just to kind of bring this home, I'm on a mission, and we are here at my company, Audit, it's to get people to talk, to help elevate IT. I mean, that's the name of the podcast. That's our goal. And by doing that, we feel that the whole world benefits, right? The MSP benefits because they're running a better business. The small and medium business benefits because they're getting the service they need. So and I don't know how you did this prior to you. Maybe you have always been really talking business needs with them. What do you see from on the other side of the table as they're, gaining the insight into what you're sharing with them?
Yeah. I mean, one of the big things that we just saw, and I just kind of wrote a short article that's, it's like 20 pages long on a how small business should be doing in annual risk risk analysis, and not just technology, just, sit down and spend, 2 to 3 hours a year doing, just a basic risk analysis. If you're in a partnership, like what, do you have everything in place if, God forbid, Bob, your partner is, gets hit by a bus or, whatever, or a key employee you have is, quits one day, like what is your plan in place? And I think just having, some of the business owners that we talk to, them just kind of bringing up those questions internally, I think has really opened their eyes into, some of these big risks that they may have to their business that they just didn't think about, or didn't want to think. Nobody wants to think about some of this stuff, but if you're a business, like you have to think about it. Like, what do you do if something happens to you? Like, what is the plan? if something happens to you, do you really want the business to just, die? I mean, and it's one thing to say, oh yeah, my brother's going to run the business. Does your brother have any idea how to run the business? So, just having, sitting down for a couple hours, once a year to just kind of have the conversation. Hey, what are our big risks? Do we have, we see some businesses that have, 60% or more of the revenue is tied to a single customer, right? If you're in manufacturing or something like that, and you're heavily reliant on a single customer, what's the plan if that customer goes away? So I think just basic things like that, of having those conversations with just identifying and trying to mitigate as best as you can, just overall business risk is something that I think businesses are really starting to come around to, with all these kind of external things that are happening, with the pandemic and ransomware and all these, kind of real bad external risks. I think people are more open to now just sitting down and being like, yeah, what are all these things that could possibly happen? And obviously some of them, the pandemic, I don't think anybody saw coming, or I don't think many of us had pandemic plans, but many of them come down to the same types of things, like loss of access to your building, or, those types of things. So I think it's just conversations that everybody should really be, having with their business internally.
Makes sense. That's perfect. Great place to leave off, Mark. Thanks for being on here and chatting with me. I could keep going for the rest of the day. This is fun. So we'll have to have you back for a fourth, fifth visit. You can get your jacket, your guest host jacket.
Oh yeah, there you go. I'll get my STEM microphone or whatever, and my prize wheel.
Yeah, exactly. Well, how can people follow you on social media or get in touch with you if they'd like to?
Sure. Obviously, you can visit our website at Plus One Technology, or, I'm on LinkedIn. You can just look up my name on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Marc with a C Umstead on LinkedIn. And then, you can email me at marc@plusonetechnology.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mark. Thank you for being here. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a safe and happy 4th of July, and everybody
have a good
celebrating, 4th. Please. And, don't blow any fingers off. Don't scare any dogs.
That's right.
Until we meet again, keep on elevating IT, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.